Welcome. We have ourselves another episode of Early Morning Setup, a card show podcast. I am here today with a great friend of mine, Mike. I'll let you introduce yourself in just a second, but hopefully everybody's doing well. We have ourselves a wonderful episode ahead. But first, pleasantries. Mike, how are you?
Good. Thanks for having me, Murph.
Absolutely. Introduce yourself. What do you do? How long you been collecting? And just kind of give us a little overview of yourself and what you do.
I'm Mike from J&M Sports Cards. Do a lot of shows. Been set up next to Murph quite a few times at Mohegan Sun. I've been doing card shows since
You say like
18,
the 90s?
So I was back in the late 90s. First started going to card shows with my dad probably back in 85, 86.
Sounds like me.
Yeah.
Sounds like me. And how long would you say that you've been an overall collector for?
I started collecting probably, it was Don Mattingly days, so it was probably 87.
Wow.
86, 87.
Wow, so just about 40 years.
Yes.
That's crazy. Can you recall the very first card, probably Mattingly, I'd guess, that you probably significantly remember collecting?
No. The first card I ever remember buying, my dad always used to give us money at the card shows, me and my brother. He would go. And we always got, back in the 80s, if you had $5, $10, it was a lot of money.
Yeah.
I remember when the Mark Leiter Topps rookie came out.
Wow. That's old school right there.
Actually, yeah, it was the error card, and everybody had to have it. Well, of course, I go into the show, and that's all my money.
Was it $10 back then?
Yeah, it was roughly between $5 and $10 back then.
That's nuts.
Now it's worth about 10 cents.
So you got screwed, basically.
Yes.
It's funny. We'll eventually get into a little bit of comparing, contrasting, shows from early then to now, because obviously we're both very active now. And back then I wasn't even around, so I can't, kind of recall. But I'm very curious to kind of pick his brain about the shows from back in the day compared to today. Some similarities, maybe some differences, a lot of differences, of course.
Oh, huge difference.
It's huge. So, like I said, we'll get into it in a little bit. But what are some of your favorite players or types of cards to collect right now?
I actually still, if I was collecting a lot, I would still collect the early finest refractors and the Topps Chrome refractors. That's my favorite.
Just the set or specific players?
No, just anything that, a lot of them never got graded. So if you can find the lower numbered stuff. I had bought a bunch of Topps Chrome Reds that were numbered to 25. And when I bought the lot, I went to look on the pop report and there was none. So all the ones I graded, even if they came back a PSA 9, they were pop ones.
That's wow.
So it's stuff like that. It doesn't. We'll get into another one later on with one of the questions.
Sure.
But yeah, I love the old fine. I'm hoping that Topps does it right when it comes back and
does the finest.
Does the finest and the Topps Chrome that it's sharp and looks when the logos come back on the cards that it's.
Obviously, the Topps finest back in the day is significantly better than what it is now.
Yes.
How much of a drop-off would you say from back then Topps finest to today's Topps finest?
The look is kind of the same, but without the logos, without the team names, you could tell they're photoshopped.
Yeah.
It's just.
That's the thing I think for a lot of people. It's just it looks too Photoshopped.
It looks fake.
I think we can get by the no logos and such like that, but it's just the Photoshop.
When you see the one with Victor Wembanyama when his back is turned, and it just says Wembanyama.
That looks good, yeah.
But the minute you turn them around, and there's cards that are not.
Yeah, and the numbers look like in a weird spot.
It looks weird.
Yeah, I think
they did a lot of that with that Victor Wembanyama set.
Yep.
They put a lot of him facing forward. If they had done most of them facing backwards, nobody might not even know.
There was one when they first released images of, I think, Topps Chrome basketball, and it's Trae Young looks like a 12-year-old AAU player. And it's just if you have them maybe mid-shot or mid-pass, just at different angles than front forward, and you can get by with it. Football ones. I think the football ones look fine because there's not a lot of blaring logos besides the helmet, really. And
that's that veteran set that they had put out. They're all in suits and stuff like that.
Yes.
And, other than maybe Steph Curry and James Harden, that year Topps when they overlapped the 2 years because of the strike or whatever.
Yeah.
Other than a few guys, those don't sell well. People don't want them because they're in, gym jerseys and stuff.
That's the thing. And I applaud Leaf a lot because a lot of people don't like Leaf because of the unlicensed. But
They have the best patches in the game.
They have the best patches in the game, you know, some good designs. And like, again, if you take away the whole the unlicensing features, like what's really wrong with it? The affordability's there, the price point's there, the hits are there. It's just people can't get around the unlicensing thing. And it's fine. But when you compare it to Topps' unlicensed and the card design itself, it's like, which design looks better?
Oh, the design's lead.
Exactly.
No doubt.
Exactly. So
No
people
doubt.
are just buying the brand name of Topps, and which is fine because everybody likes what they like, and that's totally fine. But anyways, we are getting sidetracked. But this is what we do, though. We just, you know, we talk the talk when we're at shows. You know, we just have fun with it. Of course, it's nice to not have my brother here, you know, just yapping about whatever he yaps about. But okay, people are here for card shows. They want us to talk about card shows, and that's all fun and dandy. Is it harder now than, say, maybe when you first started? I don't want to say when you first started. Is it harder now to find and outsource cards compared to a few years ago?
Yes.
What makes it more challenging?
I think all the people that got in during the boom and just wanted to move their collections are almost out.
Yeah.
So at probably a year and a half after the boom, everybody that got in at that time, they figured out they were thousands of dollars underwater from breaks and ripping from Walmart and buying and then they just wanted to replenish, get back whatever money they could.
They could, yeah.
You know, especially a lot of the newer people. So I think a lot of those collections are gone because anybody that wanted to move that stuff has moved that stuff. Now sourcing, because I buy so much on Facebook Marketplace, it's either people have 80 stuff, which
nobody wants,
you don't want, or it's people that, it's flippers. There's a lot of flippers on Marketplace, and I try to explain to them that if I'm buying a collection that's got a value of $5,000,
can't buy it.
I can't buy it at $5,000. Well, I can go on eBay and get $5,000 for it.
Go ahead.
You absolutely can.
Go ahead.
But without a store, you're going to lose about, after taxes and fees, and then at the end of the year taxes, you're going to lose about 20.
How about just the time and energy it takes to just pictures,
I
description, piece it
I have
out.
over 6,000 things on eBay. They didn't just get there overnight.
Exactly. And it's like, yeah, sure, you can absolutely make $5,000 on eBay. But wait, hold on. Taxes, eBay fees, shipping materials, they don't add those things into it.
Time for it to move.
Exactly. It just
99% of the stuff I post does not sell the next day.
Exactly. But hey, here's $2,500 right now.
Yes.
You know, no fees, no nothing.
I usually
no
walk in a collection to try to make sure that 5 to 10 of the cards get me my money back. You know,
and then the rest
if
is
it's
just
$5,000, there better be cards in there that are worth $400 or $500.
So this is a good thing I want to kind of bring up because on Hobby Talk, Rick and I were talking about buying collections. He was kind of picking my brain about it, and you're obviously a collection buyer yourself. So like, how do you go about? I know this isn't about card show guys, but these are deals that we do happen to conduct at card shows. So I think is a good question.
Yeah,
to ask.
you've seen me buy boxes.
Exactly.
And stuff at card shows.
So how do you go about kind of on the fly evaluating a collection? Obviously, you look up a few cards and kind of gauge it from there. But like, what about the rest of that 4-row box? That's kind of like meh. Like, how do you go about
the rest of that
evaluating?
4-row box should be profit if I'm doing it right.
Okay, so
I don't really care what the worth is in that as much. I mean, obviously, I want to make
something
money.
on it, yeah.
But if I'm pulling 5 or 6 cards out of that 4-row box to get my money back, the rest is profit.
It should be, yeah.
So I don't care if there's dollar cards in there. I don't care, you know, if there's $1 to $20 cards, it's all profit at that point. So for one, I don't care if I sit on it for 2-3 months. You know, I don't care how long it takes to sell, because at that I'm hoping to move the 5, 6, 10 cards within 2 weeks to get my money out.
And then
bring it's just
bring a value box to a
bring
show.
Value box to shows. Have you seen? I've brought
tons,
20 value boxes to some Mohegan shows, if not more.
Yep, and Mike's a great guy if you're looking for just oddball stuff, low end stuff, high end stuff, because you do have like 24 boxes. You know, when you have the full setup with you, and it's impressive because I've seen tons of people at one time just go sit down, go through all of them, go through a few of them.
I've had people at Mohegan Sun for 2-3 hours at the table.
And that's just nuts. And would you say you adhere more towards collectors or like your modern day flippers?
That's what I wanted to get into with. I try to gear towards a lot of collectors. Obviously, I do have cards that that flippers want and all that stuff.
You're eye candy.
When I first started shows back in the 90s, it was a lot of collectors.
Yep.
You know, people weren't flipping. You know, the only people that were flipping cards back then were dealers. So
like dealer to dealers, or just dealers to
dealers to the
consumer.
customers.
Yeah.
So back in the 90s, I would buy collections, break them up, take them to a show, And you get the people that are looking, they're not looking for that. Of course, there wasn't as many $100 cards back then.
Yeah.
But they were looking for cards that, fit their collection. So it was more collector based back then. Now I have a couple people, like I know one guy that goes to NPL in Plainville every month, and he puts every base football set together.
It's impressive.
So
those collectors are out there
since the 80s.
Wow.
And he's got every.
Is it like Donruss and
everyone?
Score. Wow.
Yes, he just puts he just works on putting the base set together.
Yeah, might as well.
All the inserts, but he doesn't. He doesn't do the number stuff unless the base is numbered. But yeah, it doesn't do the autographs or anything like that.
Wow.
It's
just it's more challenging now to find, inventory. Besides Facebook, so you're probably one of the only few people that I know that actually are active on Facebook trying to buy collections. Are you one to walk around? I know you're one to walk around shows, but like, how is it much different from walking around shows than just sitting at your table and buying that way?
The percentages. Sometimes the percentages, but even like when I go to Cranston, I don't even know their names. But the father and son duo, I'll go walk in and buy a 5-row from them. Yep. They always work with me.
Are you willing to pay more stronger when you're walking around, or is your mindset still the same?
No, it's still the same. I got to get it at the price I can buy it at.
Yeah.
But I don't want to go to a show inventoryless either, but don't want to lose money at the same time.
Exactly. No, I totally get it.
That's why I got out of buying singles. Singles is the hardest.
Just like one card, like one-offs?
1-2 cards.
Yeah.
It's so hard to just, even if you're buying at 85%, the next person's going to want it 85% too, or 90%.
Or the last sale is 85%. It's because it's always changing.
Is 5% on a $100 card worth the effort? No, you make $5.
Exactly. And that's my exact mindset. Not to digress a little bit, but like people will come in like, "Oh, this card's worth $10." Like, yeah, absolutely, not without a doubt. But 70% is $7. I'm not going to buy a card for $7 and hope to make $3 on it. Like, again, nothing's wrong with the percentage or anything like that. It's just it doesn't make sense outside of the whole 70% thing, and people don't get that.
Well, like at the shows, you and I kind of have the same mindset. We try to buy, bigger lots. I don't know, remember a few shows back, the kid that walked in with a duffel bag full of cards. And
just kept pulling
cards out of this duffel bag. And I know I spent a lot of money, and we both picked up decent cards, and we paid like 60%.
Yeah.
And the kid was thrilled because I think between the two of us, he walked out of there with a hefty sum of money.
Exactly. And and I think people kind of forget the value of cash on demand right then, right now. You're lugging this big bag or this big case, and it's 20 pounds lighter because you just sold a lot of stuff, and you have all this money back again, which obviously you don't want to get screwed over if you're the seller, but like, you got to weigh the pros and the cons here, and I think a lot of people don't do that.
Well, my biggest pet peeve at a show is people walking up and saying, "Well, I paid this."
Excellent.
Unfortunately, that's not my problem.
Yeah, that's
just because I overpay for stuff. I'm sure I know you did.
Yeah.
I could pick out a specific card.
You're not talking about the Trey Lance card, are
Yes.
you? Okay. All right.
So we've all done it.
Exactly.
We've all taken. We've all gotten beaten, and it's not our fault.
You just got to win more than you lose. That's all.
Yes, correct.
Yep.
So I mean, everybody that walks into the show and says, "Well, I paid this for the card," well, you're probably never going to get that out of the card. So before it drops any more, you might want to try to get rid of it. And so many people just don't see that.
I think they see a lot of other higher, view count influencers, or they read things online, or they see like their friend making this big deal. It's like, that can still be you, but you got to be in reality.
But those guys don't take all wins either.
No, and they never show you the losses.
They always show you the wins.
Of course.
But they never show you the losses.
It's a false sense of reality, and I feel like if you're going to a show. Now, of course, there's a problem. There's a problem with the lack of education, lack of research that these people are doing. They watch one thing or look up one thing, and it's like, oh, well, it's worth $100. I'm gonna get $100. The market doesn't work like that.
Correct.
And I don't think people kind of do a little extra critical thinking to realize, like, oh, well, if you're buying it, you got to be able to make money. Okay, where can I be at? Where can you be at? They just don't take that extra step because they don't care.
Well, people also don't realize that the quick flip days, unless you're buying big lots, is pretty much gone. You're not buying a card for $1,000 today and selling it for $1,200 tomorrow.
Yeah.
Because what you paid $1,000 for is probably 85%.
Mm-hmm.
And if you like right now, if you bought a Justin Herbert for $1,000, you're probably going to be waiting a month.
I think the quickest flips that I'm doing nowadays is I'm buying on a Friday or Saturday some stuff. Come Sunday, I've run out of cards that I've brought, and I just need to throw a few cards in to fill the gaps. And some of those cards might end up selling, not for the prices I want, because like I can't sit down and do full research, and I just want to move it and keep things going. Because I'm not a museum. I'm a retail store. I'm a vendor at shows.
You want to flip stuff as fast as you
Exactly. It's all about volume and velocity.
Yeah.
I'd rather make 10% way faster, way over and over and over again, than wait for that one big come up.
Well, that's why people get mad at me on eBay, because especially the $5 to $10 stuff or even less that I have on eBay, that is prospects or stuff like that. If somebody offers me a card that's consistently selling for $10, somebody offers me $7, I'm probably taking it.
Mm-hmm. Even with eBay fees.
Even with the eBay fees, because I don't have anything left in it.
Yeah.
So I'm still clearing $650 profit at
Afterwards,
the end of the day.
yeah.
And it's like, but I'm killing their comp.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
But I don't care, because
I was gonna say, do you do that on purpose? Kill the comp? Oh, okay.
I don't. It's obviously there's some things like I've been getting offers on some Joe Burrows. They're only $10, $12 cards. That there, I'd rather sit on until August, because I just think Joe Burrow's a great buy right now.
Interesting. We can get into that a little later. Buys and sells. Okay.
So I still think he's cheap.
Yeah.
I still think that if they put any type of defense, he'll win.
Shouldn't be too hard, right? And the reason why I like sitting down and doing this, talking to different people like yourself, is the mindset from almost everybody is different. Of course, we're here to set up at shows. We want to make deals. We want to make money, of course. But it's like the way to go about it and the philosophy behind it. Whether it's you or anybody else that I've had on, it's always different. And that's what I really enjoy about this. And people that are looking to set up at shows, like, I mean, this podcast is excellent just to kind of hear different people's line of thinking and to be like, all right, let me try that, because that didn't work, or that worked for you, let's see if it works for me.
Not everything works for everybody,
and that is true, and that's like,
some things work for me, won't work for anybody else.
Exactly.
And I'm not going to kid you, the way I do it is a lot more time consuming than people that are flipping $1,000 cards.
Yep. And like, I mean, I'm in a position where I have a card shop, so it's like I don't have to bend over at 65%, because you got to be able to go flip it on whatnot.
Yeah.
I can bring it back to my store. I can throw it in my case, and I'll get 100% if I want to. Well, 97 after a swipe fee. So it's like I don't have to. That guy down there, since this is all he does, on the side, sure, but I don't have to. So it's obviously me being in the 1% of 1% position.
Well, I don't have to either, because I have 3 or 4 other
shows
avenues
something. Exactly.
It's not just shows. Some
Exactly.
guys just do shows. I have 3 or 4 other avenues to sell cards, so I don't have to give the higher end stuff. I just don't have to give it away.
No,
because it'll sell.
Exactly. It's over time. Maybe the market changes for the better, and if it changes for the worse, then would your mindset maybe change? Like, all right, it's down 10% the last month. All right, maybe let's try to move it now.
Yeah.
Okay. So, what do you enjoy about vending at shows? Is it
people?
The people. Define people, like the collectors that come up to you, the vendors.
Just what you and I do.
Yep.
It's not even just always talking about sports.
Yep.
Sports cards. I mean, we talk sports.
Yep.
Like I'll have Yankee fans come up, and obviously, I'm a Yankee fan, and we'll just chit chat about
Yeah.
how bad the Yankees are playing, or how good they're playing,
Or how bad the Red Sox are playing, and we'll make fun of each other's fanhood and all that.
But a lot of that. It's just
Yeah.
the talking. I mean, I enjoy the buying because, as you know, you and I can buy pretty well usually at shows.
It's a full experience.
It's the full experience of the people.
Yeah.
You meet different people. We've done shows where people come from out of state. The only time we'll see them is at a big show.
Yep.
May never see them again.
Never again. That's why I'm excited for the West Coast shows. See different people, different experience, different market. I mean, I know the market's going to be completely different out there.
Yeah, when you go out to the West Coast show, I'm sure you're going to take a lot of California teams and stuff like that.
I'm hoping to find some like Celtic stuff, Red Sox stuff.
Well, that's the other
guys
thing. You
cheap
got to buy
too.
to bring home.
Exactly.
I
think the people thing gets really overlooked at because so many people who are setting up at shows are just focused on the ROI. I got to price this 10% over comp so I can make my money on it. It's like, hold on. Let's just focus on their experience, because if they have a good experience, they're going to buy it no matter what your price is.
That's like what I try to tell Tyler and other people. Greet everybody that comes to your table.
That's
Because
what
you
I
don't
do
know
here.
who the buyer is.
Yep. That's what I do here. Everybody that walks in the door of the shop, hey, how's it going? Even if I'm super busy helping somebody else, hey, how's it going? If you need anything, let me know. It's not that hard to be
Or
a
just
nice
tell them
person.
you'll be right over.
Exactly.
You know?
And again, you don't know who's walking in. You don't know how big their wallet is.
I mean, they may be looking in the case, and then they have to wait a minute. They start digging through your value boxes. Before you know it, they're pulling $50 worth of cards out of the value boxes.
Mm-hmm.
If you didn't greet them, that might be $50 you didn't make.
And a lot of people just, it's not that hard to be a nice person, but I feel like society makes it like it's almost rocket science. All these videos we see online, all these TikToks and all these memes are, people fighting at Target, for boxes of Pokemon. It's like, that's like the super small percent of the hobby, whereas the majority of the hobby is people like us, collectors that, are buying from us, and, people who like to put on good shows or other good vendors. And I think that once you find the right people, it really makes, waking up at 5, 6 in the morning so worth it. Like, all right, I'm going to get to go hang out with Mike and Jen and kind of, laugh with Tyler and all that stuff, my brother. So it's a fun experience. But no, I think the people is definitely a great, great point. Counter question, though. What's something you would change about card shows if you had to pick one thing?
More collectors.
More like walking the floor?
It's supposed to even 10-year-old kids now, all they're trying to do is flip.
So what's wrong with the whole, from your perspective, what's wrong with the whole flipping aspect of the
There's
hobby?
nothing wrong with it because that's what I do.
Mm-hmm.
But it's sooner or later, the flipping thing is going to drive everything to zero because everybody wants it at 85% comps. How does everything keep going up if the comps never go up? Somebody has to pay over comps to get it.
For somebody to make money along
Correct.
the way, yeah.
So there's always an end loser right now.
It's funny you say that because, people go through like the 20 and under slab bins. Like, doesn't it cost like $20, $30, $40 to get a card graded, and you have this for $7? Aren't you losing money? It's like, well, first of all, I'm not the one losing the money. I'm not the one grading it. But there is somebody out there that did lose the money.
A lot of times when I buy collections, there's 100 slabs that never should have gotten graded, but they did it during the boom.
Yeah.
So when I'm buying a collection, I'm valuing them at $1, $1.50 a piece. I'm selling between $5 and $10.
Mm-hmm.
And even sometimes those, it's like impossible
To move,
to get $5, $10.
I mean, Kobe White was like one of the biggest names for like a week, and then nobody wanted him, and then he had like played decent this year, where people were kind of gaining interest, but it's just his pop reports are so watered down.
Or a lot of the stuff from the 80s, like I see Barry Bonds 87 tops all the time at PSA 8s, PSA 7s.
Mm-hmm.
You can't sell them raw. How are you going to sell a PSA 7 Barry Bonds?
Hey, but it's authentic, it's graded, and it's. So let me ask you this. This is one question that I wrote down. How do you determine what cards to get? Obviously, condition, but like, I know you grade with different companies, so how do you determine what card goes to where and what not to grade?
I've been pulling away from SGC because the value's just not there anymore. Everything's pretty much PSA now.
Mm-hmm.
I know you do stuff with Beckett, and I don't know if their times have come back, but that was one of the reasons I veered away from Beckett was because
It's too slow.
It was way too slow.
Yeah.
Even PSA now, they're getting backlogged again, and now they offered that cleaning service. So
Yeah, it's
how
gonna
much
get
is that going to slow
slower,
it down?
yeah.
And they're going to have different people to clean the cards.
Yeah.
But I did a lot of SGC during the boom because
They were cheap.
you could flip anything.
Mm-hmm.
I always had my cards back in like 8 business days at most. From the time I mailed them out to the time I had them back in my house, it was like 8 business days.
It's pretty
And
quick.
you couldn't beat that during the boom because, God, PSA was taking 8 months, 10 months.
Year even. I remember people in 2020. I'm still waiting on my cards from 16 months ago, and it's just
and
like
when SGC really got going, it was, and you could. So what if my ROI is 10-20% less?
yeah.
I'm getting my cards, like I'm mailing out 3-4 submissions a month.
I'm getting it before the end of the
I'm
month.
flipping them before the end of the month.
Before yours card even get processed.
Correct.
Yeah. And that goes to the whole velocity thing. And people oftentimes ask me, it's like, why don't you grade with PSA? Well, first of all, I have my own personal reason why I don't like them. But it's just like, well, with CGC or even Beckett, it's just I'm getting them back fast. First of all, it's cheaper. I'm getting them back quicker. And I'm more of the velocity kind of guy.
And if you're taking
maxing out the value.
50 cards mailing to PSA or 50 cards mailing to SGC, well, you're selling most of those 50 cards and then buying another 50 cards to send off before PSA even looks at your card.
Exactly. And I feel like, again, people fall into the whole hype, the market hype of PSA. And again, it's all inflationary, I think. And again, we don't have to dive into that, but just like people are telling you to grade with PSA because of all this market and all this, it sells the best. But what about the turnaround time? What if someone gets injured? Like Trey Lance, perfect example. Starting quarterback for 2 weeks, looked pretty good. Then he gets injured, and your cards are out of PSA, and there's nothing you can do about
Nothing
it.
you can do.
Nothing. You paid
And we've all
$1,000.
ran into that.
What's that?
We've all ran into that.
Exactly.
At one point, I had 15 John Morants, and then he gets arrested.
Yep.
They're
Zion
they're all
injured.
PSA,
Yep.
You know, and by the time they come back, they're half the value. I would have never graded them.
Nothing you can do about it. At least, regardless who you send it to, if you can get it back faster, you can at least react quicker to it. Maybe they end up being innocent. Maybe they come back before they get injured again. It's just, there's so much you can do if you focus more on velocity. Again, just 10% over and over and over, 15% over and over and over instead of that big home run hit. And for me, my customers here, I know where their price point's at, so why try to take advantage of maximizing a price point that they're not going to pay for?
You would have a lot of problems moving $1,000, $1,500 card here, but you probably sell $210 cards here
all day long,
every day.
Exactly.
And
so that's how I look at it.
$2,000 is supposed, and you're making more ROI. People don't get it, but the cheaper stuff, like when I buy my value boxes, it's all profit.
Yeah.
So if somebody's buying $50 cards and I end up giving them like $45, that $45 is all profit.
Exactly.
It's once they go into a $1 box or a $5 box, they don't owe me anything at that point.
I tell people, they'll ask me for certain players or Pokemon and all that. And I'm like, unless it's in the case, it's in the jungle somewhere. And those are my value boxes. The binders even, if I can't see it right now, I couldn't tell you where it is. And that's obviously a problem, just having so many cards. And it is organized, but it is a problem. But
that's why our price value boxes, Jen has organized them into
crazy
teams.
Organization.
Because we learned this in Nashville. It's when we went to the Nashville show. It's a lot easier having everything in team because, like that when we did the show down there, it was like Ohio State fans. All they want is Ohio
do you have this
State
team?
stuff.
Do you have that team?
Yeah. So it's when I get down to the $1 cards or the 50-cent cards, we don't so much do it. But anything that's priced more than $1, they're separating teams because there's still people out there that's what they want.
Yeah.
If they want Red Sox, they're looking for the Red Sox. They don't want to dig for 3 hours looking through
the dollar bin just to find
for
one
Red
Red, and it's not that. Yeah.
Correct.
So you keep mentioning this, and I like this point where it's like, I'm hoping to make my money back on, say, 5 cards from a collection or a deal, and the 4-row box or anything that goes in the $1 box is just all profit. At what point did you realize that that's the strategy you kind of like and you've been sticking
Kind of
with?
the way I've always done it. I've always bought big collections.
Even
when I started, I was like 18, 19 years old, and I got out of it a little bit when I met Jen. I was 22. So we got out of it a little bit then because we started having kids.
Yeah.
I still did cards, but I didn't buy the quantity.
vending and such.
Yeah.
Like that.
We did a show in Norwich for quite a while.
Oh, wow.
Until they ended that. But yeah, and then I took a little break, and then we got back into it, and it's So I've always tried to buy bigger volume.
Yeah.
Because I've always seen more. It's obviously more work, but I've always seen more profit in buying bigger volume as opposed to buying 1-2 cards. Other than that Mark Leiter rookie.
All right, so this is all good information for whether someone's experienced or not experienced. But before we kind of get further into this conversation a little bit, I kind of want to dial back a little bit to a memory that you have about maybe your best transaction, a memorable transaction. It could be a high-end card you sold. It could be great deal you profited on, maybe a big loss, just something that kind of sticks with you from when you move forward at vending at shows.
It was actually 2, and it was one of them was at I think either second. It had to be the second EC3 con before Scott even made an EC3 con. Kid came up and he had a bunch of stuff, and he had a 50. You might not even know this card, a 1953 Bowman color Pee Wee Reese. And it's just one of those cards. I'm not even a Dodgers fan, but it was one of those cards that I was always after. They're, not frequently available. And the kid looked at my case, and he wanted a LaMelo Ball Mosaic Yellow PSA 10.
Yeah, modern hype. Love it. How much is that card worth these days?
And I got a card that I was always after, and I didn't have to spend a dime. It was a straight-up trade. And
Still in your collection?
Still got it.
Love it. Love it.
And then another one was we were out at the Enfield Card Show, and a guy walked up with a Topps Chrome East-West Shaquille O'Neal Alonzo Mourning Refractor.
Ooh, that's nice.
I traded fair value for it raw, and I got home. And
What'd you trade?
I don't remember that. I don't remember that. It was modern football.
Insert modern quarterback hype card right there. Perfect.
I got home, looked it over, and I told Tyler, I said, this thing looks really good. We send it off to PSA. About a month and a half later, it comes back.
Pretty quick.
PSA 10.
Ooh. Still have it?
No.
Oh.
That was a quick flip on eBay. I probably had $50-$60 into it. And
How much you sell for?
$850.
Woohoo. Gotta love it. And that's just like the glory of, I know you kind of said you traded for it, but buying collections.
I was almost going to keep it because I'm a huge Alonzo Mourning fan.
Yep.
You know, so I was ready to keep it. But then when I saw that it's a PSA 10 Pop 3.
You were like, wait a second.
Yeah, I can't hold on to it.
Yeah.
It
If it was like a 9 maybe or
Yes.
an 8, yeah. And that's the glory about like buying collections. First of all, I tell people who are bringing collections or looking to just get rid of stuff, make sure you just go through it. You know, go through it once over, look up a couple cards, make sure there's no diamond in the rough, no $800 card within a bunch of quarter cards. And for people who are either selling or buying, that's true. And for people that do buy it, it can be rewarding. Again, I know you said you traded for it and all that, but you know, it's good to, hey, if you find a diamond in the rough, you know, go. Like, what does that card, would you say, do ungraded? Would you say?
Ungraded was like maybe $50 to $100.
Okay, so there was still some decent value there. And
it was actually something I was going to keep.
Yeah,
because I am a huge Alonzo Mourning fan, and the refractors just don't come across all the time.
And boom.
So it was something I was going to keep, but then it just looked too good. And then when it PSA 10, it's like, yeah, it doesn't make sense to keep it.
Now, when did this happen? When did the both happen? You said the first one was like second or show.
The other one happened probably a couple years ago.
Okay. So like post boom, so to speak.
It's again. I know I traded modern football.
Yeah. Well, that's...
You know, but it was a card. I'm trading away cards I could buy back on eBay the same day.
Yeah, exactly.
And
or find 3 tables down.
Try to find an East-West refractor of any of the guys.
Yeah.
You know.
And that's just the fun thing about being collectors in this space. As much as we're trying to make $1 or $2 here or there, but it's like, I mean, you were there when that guy brought that 5 of 5 Nomar card up to the table. Like, I stopped everything. I was like, I need this card. And like, you just kind of put yourself collector first. I need that card, and that's it. And for people that don't collect, they just don't experience that, and it's just like kind of sad because it's like, I don't know, you're in this space and all you're focusing on is making money, which is great, you know, good hustle, but it's just like you're not having any fun at the end of the day. You're not making memories or meeting people, which we've talked about plenty.
I do collect a lot less now.
Really?
Yeah. Well,
I would say so. I do too, obviously.
I still collect, but I don't collect as much of the Georgetown stuff because I'm a huge Georgetown basketball fan. Certain Allen Iverson stuff I'll collect. Certain Alonzo Mourning stuff I'll collect. Any playing day Don Madigan that I do not have, I buy. I mean, it's tough to find now. It's a lot of rarer stuff. But.
When did you kind of notice yourself, especially recently, I'd probably say since the boom, you know, I guess AD, right, after Christ, that you notice yourself collecting less? Obviously, I can imagine, you know, when you started to have kids and the family was growing, you stepped away then, you've said that. But, like, since the boom, when did you kind of start noticing, oh, I haven't really been buying for my collection too much because you're so focused on, you know, James sports cards?
Probably 2 or 3 years ago. I really got out of buying anything for myself. And then I started saying, well, every card show I'm going to try to pick up one thing that's for me. You know, obviously you can't do it at every show because it's not something I don't want to collect Joe Burrows or Justin Herbert.
And that's all we see.
You know, and they come up to the table and it's like, you know, that's what they spring up. Or, you know. So I try to buy something at every show, but it doesn't always work out. It's, you know.
Do you think shows need more diversity between the cards that vendors are offering? Because obviously when you think of the Mohegan Show, big Pokemon trading card scene, big sports card scene, but it's mostly modern graded stuff. Do you think there needs to be like more vintage, more comic books, video games?
The problem was, I would say yes, but the collectors aren't there.
Yeah. It's not that market, so to speak.
The market at the shows is, you know, I'm going to say 85% people trying to flip cards.
Yeah. And it's unfortunate,
you know,
because like I know for the Cranston show, they had a post whatever, and some guy said, "Oh, I would go if there was vintage cards there," because you know all these local shows nowadays, at least here in Rhode Island, have a lot of modern stuff. I don't know about Connecticut, but you know not everyone's looking for modern stuff. You know, some people want to complete that 57 top set that them and their dad started 30 years ago. Or whatever.
Most of the smaller sizes do. There's a couple vintage guys.
Yeah.
We're trying. I did it once before, but I had gone all vintage, but the shows were tough. You know, so I'm trying to do more vintage now, even if it's just you know, like $71 boxes or
just
something,
right? Yeah.
Even if they're commons.
Yeah.
Because there's always people trying to put those sets together.
And I know for me, I know my market. I try to cater towards the collectors. As you can see, I mean, there's tons of value. It's kind of cut off, but there's all these value boxes and stuff. There's value boxes on the shop. You know, I want people to sit around for 2-3 hours and just digging through them. Even if they pick out 20 cards, at least they dug them out. And that's kind of who I want to attract. Obviously, the higher end cards sell, and that's what's attractive. It's eye candy. But it's just like, I have a 2-row box, probably really a 1-row box if you put them in 1 row, of just vintage 50s and 60s, maybe a little bit of 70s, just common cards. It's just the best I can do right now because, A, it doesn't really come out all too often. You know, people aren't bringing it up to the table all too often. And it's just not my customer base wants to buy it. So you have to know your market. And do you think that the market at a smaller show, market via the average customer, is different at a smaller show compared to a bigger show?
No doubt.
What's the difference?
More collectors go to smaller shows. I mean, granted, there's not a ton of collectors, but I find more people looking for collection stuff at smaller shows.
Like your VFW 30 table
but
shows.
That's why I'll make 20 or 30% less at a smaller show than I do at a bigger show because I'm selling a lot more smaller items.
Yeah, $20 here, $10 there.
Yes, correct.
Do you prefer, as a vendor, the bigger or smaller shows? Not what your wallet prefers, but you personally.
I like the bigger shows, but I would say I prefer the smaller shows just because to me it's more personal.
Okay, yeah. More interpersonal, conversational, yeah.
You got a lot more time. I mean, you've seen at some of the bigger shows, we don't have time to talk to anybody, so it's very hard.
We might have like 20 minutes to talk to ourselves in the morning, and then when the show's dead at the end.
So it's, at the smaller shows, yeah, they're getting 200-300 people at the show, but there's also 50 tables. So if you average 5 people per table, roughly, and it's not all 300 are coming in at the same time, so it's probably less than that.
Spreads out.
You can actually have a conversation with somebody as they're looking through the cards.
Yep.
The bigger shows, there's times when I barely have enough time to take a drink of water, never mind talk to somebody.
I remember the last show, I know you weren't there but in February, from not early bird, but 10 a.m. when the show actually opened, till about maybe 1:45. I was just head down, buying, making deals, camera, obviously doing the vlogs. And I think Donnie had to be like, hey, Murph, it's like 1:30, right? I'm like, oh my God, it is. Like, oh, we need lunch right now. You just get like lost. And it's only like 4 hours, but it's just like time goes by so fast. You're so busy. You can't even get up to go to the bathroom or get up to just stretch your legs. So the bigger shows, I think, are a lot more consuming of energy, physicality, mental, all that good stuff. But I kind of I think there's a good little segment here to pivot back to kind of something we alluded to, is comparing and contrasting shows from the 90s to the today. Like, what would you say, obviously besides the price point of cards, is like a big difference, would you say, between shows back then, when you were younger, to today's shows?
Well, a lot of dealers didn't do it full time. There's a lot of dealers now that
like today, okay,
job.
Yeah.
So, and there wasn't as much like inter-dealer buying.
Dealer to dealer buying. There wasn't that much.
Not as much as there is now.
What would you say is the reason why that we see it more often? People are just buddies now?
Yeah, probably, maybe.
I mean, I know we do a bunch of deals together, and obviously...
Well, I help you, I know there's certain stuff that goes good in your shop, and I try to work with you the best I can, especially when I was grading.
But, like, if we were dealers back 30 years ago...
You might not do that.
Interesting.
Because you're buying, you're selling, back then you were selling a lot at the show, because a lot of collectors showed up,
How much... Because collectors show up, and collectors will buy most of the time at sticker. If you have it like at 45, you can do 40.
Especially if something they want.
Exactly, and that's why I love EC3, because I can, specifically for Pokemon, I can have a Pokemon card out, and they know the whole game about buying online, shipping, condition. They can look at it right there, and they'll buy it, even if it's $2 over, TCG or price charting, whatever. So, would you say shows are better today or back then?
I prefer more back then.
What about it, would you say?
I knew I was usually finding the end buyer. Now it's like, unless you're selling, a bunch of dollar cards, you're not finding the end buyer. I even have people that go through my value boxes that I know they're taking them to Whatnot.
All the time, yep. And I'm like, listen, if I can get mine off of it, I'll give you the best deal. I'll give you 70% on the value box, sure, whatever, it doesn't matter.
But yeah, it was I preferred it back then. Plus, back then it was a lot more baseball. And if I could just do baseball, I would absolutely just sell baseball.
I would love to too.
But, it's my favorite sport. It's what I know the most.
Yep. And unfortunately,
Unfortunately, if you don't carry football, you're not selling a lot.
They'll quickly look, and then they're on their way.
Correct.
Now, obviously, today's ruled by technology, eBay's 130, last comps, all that. Back then, they didn't have that. It was the Beckett book. How many sales were conducted and completed just based off of the asking price? Like
back then?
Back then.
Oh, lots.
So, like, obviously, again, if it's like $5, would you round down to the lowest zero? But, like, obviously today, hardly ever are we getting asking price on stuff just because people are always checking. Oh, the last one did $3 less. I can't do that. Blah, 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 blah. Where deals, I'm assuming deals were significantly easier to make back then.
Of course. The hardest thing was the condition because Beckett always gave,
different prices
on different conditions.
Now, obviously, we both sit at shows, have our phone ready to look up cards. People are the same way. Was the Beckett magazine back then like how we use phones today? Is like, oh, I have it for 20. Let me just check the Beckett real quick.
Only on like the bigger cards, like when the 86 Conseco came out, everybody had to have it.
Yeah.
It was a hot card. 84 Dunruss Mattingly, it was huge for a long time. So stuff, the 89 Griffey Upper Deck.
Yep.
So stuff like that, yes, people would want to be in market, but the average everyday cards, no. We didn't,
Because you were selling to collectors.
We were selling to collectors.
And collectors didn't
back
mind
then,
it.
People were trying to put their sets together.
Yeah.
So, they were trying to buy, 89 scorecards. They were a quarter a piece, $1 a piece, some were $1 a piece. Like they weren't just going out. Or there was guys there was a lot of player collectors too.
Yeah.
Like mostly what I've collected in my lifetime is just Don Mattingly and Don Mattingly player day cards, the playing day cards. It's so there was a lot of them back there. I remember when Greg Jeffries was a rookie. There were Mets fans that all they wanted was Greg Jeffries.
I remember, obviously, this is before my time. I might have been like the 89 Tops, maybe. It was the Upper Deck Griffey card, where it's like card shops would sell them right at the Beckett, whatever the Beckett was at the time, but they had like a stack of them. Obviously, when we sell a card's gone, right?
Yeah.
We rarely will have duplicates of the same exact card unless it's like a base card in the value bin. But obviously, Upper Deck or Tops, I forget which one. I know the Upper Deck's more popular, but at the time, I forget which one. They just had stacks of them. So like, all right.
The Tops would have been a traded, so I'm gonna bet it was the purple Dunruss card.
Okay. So I got my brands mixed up. I wasn't around in '89, guys. Okay, so I don't really remember.
I'm gonna guess it was the purple.
So yeah, they just had it at the Beckett. That was it. You walk out the door. Let me just go in the back and just put another one out and just rinse and repeat. Do you think we'll ever get back to the day where we maybe see a hobby like that again, where vendors, shops even have these cards, just more desirable cards kind of stacked up based on the mass production of the cards we're seeing today from both Panini and Topps?
No, because most of what people want now is all numbered stuff. So it's limited.
Yeah.
Even though the same card is a different color, limited to 99, limited to 199, it's the same card, a different color. So people overlook that.
Yeah.
Like,
it's
a different
blue,
card.
green.
It's just a different color with different numbering on it.
Yeah.
It's still the same card.
I like.
So people don't collect base cards anymore.
Yeah.
So
which is
back
sad.
then everything was base card.
Yeah.
That's all you could buy was.
Now, when did you notice personally the shift from what you knew and loved to like chase of inserts and stuff like that? I think it's 93, kind of when they introduced like refractors and such.
Yes, they started doing the refractors and stuff.
I think that's kind of the shining moment.
But a little later was when they started putting the memorabilia cards in.
The patch cards, autos.
And then, like, it's funny, I was talking to somebody not too long ago, like, the late 90s cards that were numbered to, like, 2,500.
Yeah, oh, wow.
Yeah.
Better off being a million.
But it wasn't back then.
Yeah.
To find one of those cards, you might open 3 boxes, 4 boxes, 5 boxes before you even get one.
Isn't that crazy to think about?
Now every box you open
has
a numbered card in it.
Yeah.
And they're numbered to a lot less than 2,500.
And it may seem like, even if it's like the 299, it seems like it's just everywhere.
So people come up and it'll be something out of Topps Chrome that's numbered to. I can give you an example. Randy Moss numbered to 100. I had told you that I pulled out of a box that I bought when we were down in Tennessee. The last sale on that card was 10 years ago. because people don't. If they have them, they're not for sale.
Yeah. Or maybe they're lost
or they're lost, or
still maybe sealed, because obviously there's still some sealed boxes out there.
I mean, but to pull a card number to 100, never mind an early Randy Moss refractor, it just didn't happen every day.
Yeah.
Because they made so much, and I think if they limited, the card market would be better if they limited the amount of hits and stuff in every box. Mm-hmm. Because
define a hit like patch auto, stuff like that.
If you knew you're getting a patch auto out of every box, what good is it?
People wouldn't be buying the products.
But they would, because they wouldn't know any better. Because that would be what they're shooting for.
Yeah.
Obviously, the card companies don't want to do that because they can't sell $1,000 boxes that way.
Yeah, and I think we need to find a better separation between hobby and retail, because I just got Contenders football mega boxes in. You get an auto and 2 patch cards in every box for $45. Now that's a great buy for $45 if you're a collector. Hopefully you can pull a patch of your favorite player, a nice cool little auto of someone you can start to follow. But it's just like, that's better than some hobby boxes, honestly. I mean, optic hobby boxes for $800, you only get 1 auto, and it's just like, sure, it's shinier, better card, but like,
it's not only that, but like, look at the case hits.
Yeah.
Why is a Zoom case hit and a Kaboom case hit, why are they so differential in price?
Yeah.
They're still case hits.
Yeah. I just think, again, it goes to the whole influencer thing. People just get so swamped and just brainwashed with chasing Kabooms, downtowns, flawless patches, just all that crazy stuff. And again, it's what people are just consuming. No one's watching people collecting on YouTube. People are watching shows and flipping and making these $20,000 deals. And it's like, that's not the hobby. It's a part of the hobby.
Well, that's another thing. It's like back when I was first started doing shows, it was an actual hobby.
Yeah.
Granted, I wasn't making a killing. Mm-hmm. I was still making money, but even then, to me, it was still a hobby. Now, to 99% of people, it's a business. You can't call it, if all you do is buy and flip, you can't call it a hobby. No. It's a business.
Yeah. And I think people kind of get confused off of that. They're like, oh, I'm buying these cards and, I just want to sell them. Oh, I'm not a flipper because I'm not putting them on eBay. It's like, well, then what are you doing right here? I mean, we're having an in-person conversation, just not on. It's a rabbit hole that I just preach and rant, and it's just terrible.
Which, I mean, you look at a lot of the YouTubers, they don't collect anything.
Nope. Their collection might be maybe 1 card, just to say they have 1 card of their favorite player growing up, and that's it. And it's just like, that's no fun. That's no fun.
I don't want to name names, but even one of the Commanders fans, I mean, he's bought all of these Jaden Daniels. He's not keeping those.
No.
He's absolutely not keeping those cards.
Nope.
They are, as soon as July comes or the National comes, those cards will be gone.
Week 1, he throws 5 touchdowns, puts up 45 points, and they beat whoever they're playing week 1, I forget, immediately on eBay.
I don't even keep football that long. I feel like it burned on it. Even if I buy it in June, if you keep it past week 1, week 2, I try to get rid of everything by the National.
Yeah, you have to. All right. So what's something to kind of completely change gears here? It's like a few series of questions that I do like to ask people as we kind of wrap things up here. What's something you'd say to someone who's just getting into the hobby or looking to get into the hobby?
Don't watch YouTube.
Don't watch this video, pretty much.
But I mean, don't watch influencers.
Yeah.
Influencers that drive you one way or another. And just buy what you like. Mm-hmm. Even if it goes to 0, if you like it, you don't lose.
Like, I mean, people ask me all the time, what's the most expensive card in your collection? I'm like, that's not the point. Like, to me, it's the sentimental value. Like, I could care less how much any of that stuff costs. I think the most expensive ones are like $200. I could care less. I like it. I like to play.
Less than that.
And it's just like the money shouldn't matter. You like it, you love it. That's it. And I think there comes to a point where it's like, if you don't like it anymore, fine, go ahead and sell it. But make the next card cheaper by taking that money and putting it towards the next card. Yeah. And just keep the collection going and growing that way. And I like your point. Just collect. Don't watch influencers. Don't fall for the hype. Like cards, like players, like grading companies because you like them. And I think a lot of people kind of forget it's about me. It's my hobby. It's my collection. Not yours, not them.
See, I mean, ultimately, like, I love SGC Slap.
Yeah.
I think.
So you are a fan of the tuxedo look?
I am a fan, yes. I like how it looks on a lot of cards. Mm-hmm. Even a lot of the modern cards, the darker modern cards, I like the background of it. I like how it looks, but it just doesn't sell at shows anymore. during the boom, I could move them hand over fist. Now unless it's something that you just pulled and you're gonna be first to market with it, then it'll sell.
Yeah. But then someone's buying it to crack it and send it to PSA.
Or if it's something like 85 back, they'll sell. When you start getting into more vintage stuff.
I think vintage for SGC is the best because the faded look of the card and the black tuxedo just makes the faded colors pop a little bit.
Yeah.
And maybe that's just us being collectors, kind of chit chatting about that. Oh, I want to go sell it. I'll send it to PSA. It's just whatever. Do whatever you want with it. But
yeah, if you want to get the most out of it, you gotta send it to PSA, in my opinion.
I hate that notion. It blows my mind. And this is a good example. I like to tell people it's like, it doesn't matter what kind of car you drive or what manufacturer, Ford, Chevy, Tesla, pick any of them. They're all professional car manufacturers putting good cars on the road. It's just we have a personal preference at the end of the day. Just because I like Chevy or Ford doesn't mean that Dodge and Toyota aren't good. But when it comes to card grading companies, if you don't like PSA, then you're in the wrong. So it's just, again, collect what you like. I love that point that you made. It's a good point. All right. So for someone who might be nervous about going to their first show, what's a reason or two that they should just do it? Just wake up early Sunday and just go to the show. What's a reason? I know we kind of talked about a bunch, but
yeah, I don't know why you'd be nervous going to a show. I mean, as long as go with what you can afford to spend, and you're buying stuff that you want to keep. Or
I think a lot of people might be nervous, and I've heard this before, and this is why I posed the question. They're in a room full of people who probably know more than them. I feel like they don't want to be like embarrassed by not
everything
knowing.
in life, then just start at zero and work your.
That's a good good point. Good way to look at it.
When you jumped into owning a card shop, you didn't know everything about owning a card shop.
Nope.
And I'm sure you're still learning every day. So
you have to. You have to be willing to learn. And, no matter what it is, no matter what your trade is or your profession or whatever, you got to be willing to learn. Because if you think
I'm an electrician and I don't know everything.
Yeah.
I constantly call people and
hey, help me fix that. Yeah. I'm just trying to put myself back in the shoes of the early days when I first went to a show. My dad said I went to a show when I was like 5 or 6. I don't remember. My first show I remember is probably when I was like 9 or 10.
That's about what I remember too.
So it's like, but I mean, just being a kid, a lot of kids just, some are nervous for big public spaces with people, but some aren't. Some are just excited, and that's just all they care about is the excitement. And being adults, even, we get excited over things. So it's just like, I don't know. I mean, why would you be nervous? So just go.
Although the first Mohegan Sun show, that was the biggest show I ever did at that point, and obviously I've done bigger ones now.
Yeah.
I didn't sleep for 2 days. We had stuff set up in the kitchen table.
Mapping it all out.
Yeah, mapping out how we're doing the layout. Make sure we had enough stuff for the 2 tables we had. I was nervous for a couple
I think maybe the biggest nerve-wracking thing might just be the unknown. I think, like, I don't know what I want to buy.
Do you have the right stuff?
Do you have the right stuff? Do you know your values? Are you going to want to emotionally, get rid of the card or whatever? So maybe the unknown is probably the biggest nerve for people. It's a good question. I'll have to ask somebody who actually is nervous about going to a show. Why are you nervous? I think that's a good question. If you could go back in time to your novice self and give yourself a piece of advice that you now know, that you know now, that you didn't know then, what would it be?
Buy a lot of vintage. A lot of mantles. I remember as a kid you could buy certain Mickey mantles for $50, $100. Try to buy any Mickey mantle now for $50 or $100.
It would have to be almost cut in half.
So I remember when the 51, the 52 mantles were nowhere near what they are now.
Yeah.
If you had just bought all that stuff back then, of course, $100 was a lot of money back then. But if you just
go a lot further than today.
Yeah, you would, you'd have a mint right now. So,
what about in terms of because I feel like whenever a show comes around, I never know what I'm going to bring. I have a general idea, but I really, truly never know. What about in terms of vending? It's just all right, make sure that you price the cards out the night before. Don't overthink it. Don't be in the kitchen setting 2 tables up trying to map it out. Just get there and just have fun. What's something that maybe you kind of overthought about in that you're like, I didn't really need to stress about that too much?
Really, almost anything at a show. I stress every time we go to a show. And
you do look a little stressed in the morning sometimes.
Especially the bigger shows. Mm-hmm. And then 99% of the time we have a good show anyway.
That's it, yeah. It just happens organically.
You saw one of the shows in Rhode Island I set up at. I didn't sell anything all day long. But
not to name names, I know what you're talking about.
I ended up buying good, and I told you, hey, I didn't have a great show. but we still ended up making quite a big profit because
we were able to buy.
I was able to buy.
And I had this conversation with somebody else before. I forget who it was. Even if a show selling wise doesn't go well, still doesn't mean you can't market, network, advertise, go out and buy, maybe trade a card away, just rotate or replenish inventory. There's multiple ways you can have a successful show. Of course, we all want to make money, but you got to spend money too in order to make money. And a lot of people, whether they're just selling their collection or vending, they just forget about that concept.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that just don't, just because they're not selling anything, it's terrible show.
I only made $300. Like, well, that's $300 more you had.
You brought $1,000, and if you spent that $1,000 right, you can make a lot more than that $300 because, if you bought stuff where you could turn around and sell for $1,500, $2,000, now you made $1,300 from that show.
I don't remember how much I bought, if at all. I remember my worst show one time, I think I made $9. And I'm sure I bought, but it was a local show. I won't name any names. We've talked about them. But I advertised and I marketed business cards. Oh, I got a shop 5 minutes down the street. Oh, come check me out. Oh, yeah, we're open. Come on. So it's just like there's other things you can do.
Because, you can, especially when your shop was so close to that other show.
That certain location.
Yeah. I don't want to name names of shows, but I mean, your mother was at the shop, you were at the show, and you constantly would tell them, hey, got more stuff down at the shop.
Yep, go check it out.
It's literally 10 minutes away. Yep. Not even 10 minutes away,
and
I don't think.
I feel like people even on eBay or whatnot, or if that's not their main show, hey, come check me out at another show. Oh, check me out. I'll be streaming tomorrow. Oh, check me out on eBay. I got 2,000 listings on there. Plus buying. There's just so many different ways you can have a successful show outside of just making money, although making money is nice. What's the next step, if any, for you and your vending endeavors? What's like the next thing? I know you're going through some personal things, and you don't have to get into that.
I got to get back into shows. A lot of people know what's been going on.
Yeah.
I haven't done many shows since January. We've missed the past. This will be the second EC3 con we missed.
You did do the January one. Oh, no, there was no. You did the February one.
We did the November one.
November.
We didn't do February.
Oh, wait, June's coming up. I'm thinking, wow.
Yeah,
okay.
we didn't do February.
I'm thinking September.
We're hoping to be back doing shows full time as of July.
Okay, so like midsummer.
That's what we're hoping for.
Okay.
We actually have 2 shows scheduled, and we plan on being back at EC3 Con in September.
Okay. That's positive. That's good.
Yes. So we're also trying to grow the Whatnot. It's like it is so hard to get a following on Whatnot, and it's just.
I wanted to ask you about that because I know you mentioned how they reached out and like some promotional things. So you're trying to get into the Whatnot. From your brief experience with Whatnot so far, do you think it's a good additional avenue for you, or would you rather just save the inventory for shows?
I've been doing a lot of lower end because I just getting going on it. But if you can get a following, I mean. The biggest problem is if you jump on when some of these big time, like people don't get it. I'll sell a lot of the same product that some of the big time YouTubers sell. But if you go in there, this stuff's going over comps.
Of course, because people just want the sticker and the bubble mailer.
If you come into a room with me that has 10, 12 people, you're probably going to get it a little under comp.
Yeah.
So you're paying more going to their rooms than you are going to
just to buy from that person.
Yes.
Yeah.
And just to say you bought from that person.
And to get their sticker and the bubble mailer.
I've dealt with those people when we went to National. I dealt with 2 or 3 of them at their tables, and it's like they don't give you deals.
Really?
Yeah.
Nothing.
It's not,
oh, but I watch you on YouTube.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm subscribed. No, that's still 110%.
They do give kids deals, and a couple of them, I love the way they handle the kids.
Yeah.
And they actually are like that, seem like that, like
genuine
in real life.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
It's not just for the camera.
That's good. That's good. Well, as we wrap up this really good episode, is there anything you want to kind of just mention, discuss, chat, a point you want to make, or anything that maybe we didn't get to in today's episode?
No, just keep coming out to shows.
Yeah.
Actually, one thing, and I kind of surprised you didn't bring it up, is how many shows.
Like setting up at how many shows?
How many shows there are.
Oh, yeah, sure. Let's dive into this. This is a good conversation here.
You and I have talked about this numerous times before, and, I always thought that the more shows we got,
the better.
No. I thought there were going to be shows that failed. I haven't seen that many shows.
The only shows I've seen fail are just one-offs. Like, here's one show, they never come back. It's not like a show has been around for a couple years and then they die out.
I've also seen, like, the people that run shows and aren't into cards just there to try to make a profit. Seen a couple of those guys.
Yeah, kind of flame out.
We actually did a couple of shows of, you know.
And people ask me all the time, maybe not as much anymore, but they used to, like, oh, why don't you run your own show? And I give them the same answer. I would love to. I think it'd be super fun. But every weekend, there's something probably within an hour, maybe 2 shows within an hour, wherever you are in New England. So it's like, it's so watered down. There's so much competition. Why go to my show when that show's 20 minutes closer to you? It's just like, trust me, I would love to. I think I could put on a great show, a nice 30, 40 table show. But it's just like, it's so saturated with shows.
And it's only, from what I can see, it's this area of the country.
Oh, it's because the state's so small. Connecticut, Mass, Rhode Island is so small.
When we were down in Tennessee, yeah, we could go to a show every weekend. Some were 3-4 hours away.
And they were all completely different.
Completely different vendors. They were completely different promoters.
Like, I remember one time there was like a Woburn, Quincy, I think Scott's Mohegan, and then maybe like a Seekonk show or somewhere else in close to Mass. And it's just like, they're all within like an hour and 15 minutes from each other. The same weekend, same times. And it's just like, if you're a collector or somebody that just wants to go to a show, you might be able to hit 2 of them on one given day. So it's just like...
But do you want to?
But do you want to? Do you spend all your money at the first show? Are you too tired at the first show? Something come up later in the day, you can't get to it. So it's just, I think Rhode Island, Massachusetts, and Connecticut, being so small and so compact, it makes it a little bit more saturated than, say, maybe Tennessee. Because if it's show...
Not only that, but how do they all get dealers? Are they all getting quality dealers?
That's a great point, the quality of the dealer, because a lot of those guys...
I remember when the Quincy show and EC3Con were the same weekend. You know, there were dealers not at EC3Con or not at Quincy because...
I was one of them. I had to pick and choose.
You had to... there was one show where you set up at both shows.
Yep. I had Mrs. Murph set up at the Quincy show, handing out goodie bags and business cards. I spent $300 for the table to make 0. Crazy. And it's just something that I just ran into or whatever, and it was unfortunate. But when you're in a state like Tennessee, per se, or New York, California, pick any of the larger states, 4 shows like throughout the state, it could be all over the place.
Correct.
So it's like that one that's an hour and a half away from you. That might be the closest one, so you have to go to it. So it is. I think it sucks. But then again, some of them are like 20 minutes from my house, so it's super close. But it is a problem because I would like to run my own show, and I think it'd be really good. But
Rhode Island's got a lot of shows.
So many shows. Small estates, so many shows.
It's I see them all the time. Now you got the one in Tiverton. There's one.
See, there's Tiverton. I know Seekonk's Mass, but Seekonk's right there. You have North Attleboro, the mall, Smithfield, Cranston. We've talked about.
Your buddy's show down.
Coventry, I know. My buddy. I know I'm missing another one.
But still, that's 8 to 10 shows. There's 4 weekends.
Yeah, it's just...
So that's, at least 2 weekends.
And a lot of those shows are once-a-month shows.
And then a lot of the Connecticut shows are only a half hour away. There's a lot of Mass shows a half hour to an hour.
Is there any way, besides collaboration, to fix this problem? Because I don't see a way, and these people don't want to collaborate with each other.
I think
they want to compete.
The promoters just want to step on each other's toes to try to outdo the next guy.
Undercut each other.
Yes.
So I heard this quote one time. I forget who it was. Why try to compete with each other? Instead, you can collaborate, and everybody wins. But everyone's so egotistical and narcissist. They just want to win. I. It's
like the other thing that they're, the vendors no longer need the shows.
There's so many.
The vendors.
Yep. I won't name names, but there's a guy who's been collecting for 20, 30, 40 years. Used to go to the one local shop that was in the area, and that was the only place, this was before eBay, that he could sell cards to. So he would only be able to sell them at 20, 30, 40% of whatever the Beckett was, because that's the only place, because he didn't have a shop. Nowadays, you got eBay, whatnot, card shows, whether as a buyer or as a vendor or not, ComC, Alt, pick any place, any marketplace, or Facebook Marketplace, person-to-person deals to offload this stuff. So now that shop can't pay 30% anymore. So it's just like times have changed for the good, for the bad, and in so many ways. But everyone is competing against everybody. It's absolutely nuts. Absolutely nuts. Was there anything else that we missed? I'm glad you brought that up because that's a good point. There are so many shows.
We've talked about that numerous times.
We have, yeah. And it's quite unfortunate that, some people do have to end up picking and choosing. Scott's a great guy. I want to go to Scott's show.
Even as a vendor, we pick and choose.
We have to. I did it, and now I don't, for my own reasons. But yeah, as vendors, we have to pick and choose, and it's, we want to set up at all these shows because they do good for us. But it's just like, I got burnt out from setting up at too many shows, so I was like, I can't do it no more.
Well, what we originally stopped doing was doing multi-day shows 2 weekends in a row.
That just killed you guys.
Both of us were working full time.
Yep.
And we would get out of work on Friday, have to get everything prepped for Saturday, get there early Saturday morning. You know as well as I do, getting out of one of those bigger shows on the weekend, you're not pulling out till 5, 6 o'clock at night. Then you got to load everything. Be back to work for 6, 7 o'clock Monday morning.
Yeah, it's tough.
Let
me ask you this: do you prefer 2 days or 3 day shows?
I've never done a 3-day show.
No, really?
No.
Huh.
I lied. We did the one in Nashville. That was.
Oh yeah. How?
So.
I personally prefer 3-day shows. Personally.
I enjoyed the 3-day show, but they didn't schedule it well with the football schedule because the Tennessee Titans were actually home on Sunday.
I feel like that would have maybe worked well. I don't know where the convention center is compared to this.
10 minutes away.
The parking.
So there was nobody there. Down, it's different down.
Interesting. Tennessee.
Down south.
Yeah.
Because, like you saw Tennessee, the Tennessee Volunteers played Saturday afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a very steady morning, and everybody was home to watch Tennessee play football.
People actually care about college sports down south.
It is down
Anywhere outside of New England, they care about college sports, which is crazy.
They were all home. Everybody that came in with orange on, they said they will be home by 3 o'clock in the afternoon because Tennessee was playing. Even
around here, and I'm sure it's similar across the country, come noon on Sunday during football season, whether you're a Patriots fan or not in this area, got to go home, watch Red Zone.
I've told people before, a 1-day show on Sunday during football season, don't even ask because I'm not going.
Nope. If you have it on Saturday, around here, yeah. But
Sunday during football season, I'm not doing a 1-day show.
I'll walk around, go there from 10 to 12, and then I'll be one of those guys out the door.
Football just like anybody else.
Yeah.
So it's,
It's nuts. Well, Mike, thank you so much. I appreciate you being on. This has been super fun. I'm very excited for, obviously, you to get back into the whole car show game. And hopefully we can revisit this maybe 6 months to a year from now, see how things have changed for you, the hobby, vending, whatever it may be. But thank you so much for being on. I definitely appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Murph.
Absolutely. This has been an absolute blast. This is why I like having these conversations with people. Peel back the curtain, get to know them a little bit better. But ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching. I've queued up an excellent video right over Mike's face that I do believe is going to be excellent for your hobby endeavors. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you in the next one. Bye, guys.